is Evananda. I've been teaching yoga around the world for over 30 years, sharing my blessings by offering free yoga classes, currently on the most beautiful beach in America, here in Siesta Key, Florida. Furthering my collaboration to raise personal and planetary consciousness, I now present Beyond the Matrix, a program in which I have thought-provoking conversations with authors, scholars, teachers, and healers who are on the cutting edge of ideas which will inspire, educate, and open our hearts to the multiple ways we can transform our world.
Welcome to Beyond the Matrix, a show that explores the mysteries of life and empowers you with knowledge concerning your world and your being. SBN Video.tv is your free thinking zone and the place to go for all things spiritual. My guests today, or I have two actually, Connie and Martin Jordan. Connie is off camera, but she'll be joining us in the conversation as well. Connie and Martin are entertainers who have developed a very unique show combining music, comedy, and the world of the supernatural. They may be described, in fact, as metaphysical entertainers. Martin is a musician and songwriter and a psychic medium. He is also an advanced clinical hypnotherapist and a certified past life regression facilitator and a lecture and workshop facilitator. Connie is a stand-up comedian. What they do is they present a show in which Martin channels the deceased friends and relatives of members of the audience. He also sings his own original spiritually inspired music and plays the guitar, as Connie keeps the audience relaxed and in a good humor with her witty commentary during their show. The result is a very engaging and emotionally inspiring multi-level production. And on a more serious note, they lost the physical presence of their son, Andrew, to leukemia on October 22nd, 2007. Since then, it has been their mission to raise the awareness of leukemia in children to the world. Welcome to the program, both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad to have you here.
Absolutely.
Yes, so your show is really quite unusual. I saw it once and I really enjoyed it. It blends your diverse talents, and you also pull in spiritual entities.
Yes.
That help to uplift and amuse your audience. I'd like you to tell our audience, please, a little bit about how the show came to be, how even you two got together. When and where did this all begin?
Well, Connie usually tells the story more accurately than me because I'm not a date person. I'm more of a quantum kind of guy. Things are forward, back,
yes,
whatever. But I met Connie in middle school, and Connie has always had...
Where?
In Florida.
In Florida.
In Davie Plantation, Florida. And...
Connie, what year was that?
1975.
Thank you.
I would have remembered that because you told me that earlier.
Okay.
But it was 1975, and we really didn't kind of get together as boyfriend and girlfriend until high school.
So you've known each other quite a long time.
Yes, because my dad was a country singer, and he emigrated to America in 71. From Ireland.
From Ireland.
And then we went back to Ireland in 1976. And Connie and I had been writing back and forth, or as she tells the story, she writes and I ignore her.
You were smitten with one another.
Yes.
Immediately?
I was.
She was.
Yeah.
She understood past lives. She understood connections with people a lot more than I did, because I've always had a scientific
What is
outlook.
your background scientifically?
Industrial chemistry and physics.
And physics.
Oh, definitely physics. Love physics. And I'm using physics to explain everything that I do, not using physics to negate everything that I do now, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it's the dawn of Aquarius. You're allowed to do that now.
Yeah.
And I think from that, writing back and forth, she eventually came and got me. She actually went to see a psychic. And the psychic told her that if she didn't go by February 28th, 1988...
Here we go with the dates again.
Was that good?
Well, February 29th, which was a leap year, she told me I had until February 29th of 88 to go over to Ireland, because I had seen her in June of 87. And when I told him I was going to see a psychic, he just called me a crazy Yank.
Well, psychics and therapists, that's what Yanks are all about. So.
Yeah. So
yes, we are.
No, I know different.
So when she told me that, I actually left February 29th, 1988 to go over and see him, and it had been 12 years since we had seen each other. So I didn't know how to ask him, because he was 4'11".
So you were absent from one another for 12 years.
12 years.
That's when I did all the writing.
And then you corresponded during this
Yes.
time.
Now, I called her collect one evening. I got...
In 1985.
1985.
You are the
She's a historian, I'm telling you.
you?
She is. Just why I can get away with nothing.
Yes.
You know, when I called her, I was, let's say, relatively drunk for an Irishman.
All right.
And I called her collect.
Mildly drunk.
Mildly drunk.
All
and
right.
I called her collect. Obviously not drunk enough so that I couldn't see. But drunk enough to think, sure, she'll accept my call if I call her collect. And she accepted the call. And from that moment, there was no kind of turning back emotionally. It was as if we had just picked up where we...
And when did you actually physically get together then?
1988. She came and got me. She got a flight to Ireland. And she came and got me. We spent a few weeks together.
Did you have to emigrate? Or
yes.
immigrate here?
Yes, I finally did come over to America in 1988. And we got married right away.
Oh, that's nice.
And we've been married ever since. But we've been married 3 times.
Yes, you were right.
What do you mean by that? 3 times?
Well, the reason why, when he first came over, it was June 11th, 1988, and he had a 3-month visa. So in order to get things rolling, to get him to stay here, we got married right before his visa was up. And I said, well, I want to make sure we have fun with it, so we did. And then we later, then a year and a half later, had a church wedding at the Catholic Church with the same priest that his father used to, I don't know, what would you say your father did with?
He was his drinking buddy.
Yeah.
The priest was?
Yes. I almost said his name, so I'm glad I didn't.
Irish,
Irish,
naturally.
from Offaly, south of Ireland. But my dad helped him start his church way back in the 70s. It was in a bar called the Lauderdale Connection. Every Sunday they'd cover the beer crates with the altar cloth. And my family would be the singers, me and my 5 sisters. And then it moved to a warehouse. And then he's got a big spread now in Davie.
Oh, how beautiful.
And it's got a church, kindergarten through high school. Full-blown Catholic church, Catholic high school out there now.
Oh, how beautiful.
So it was a kind of a full circle moment getting married by him as well. You know, so that was kind of cool. So that was the Catholic wedding.
Yes,
you know.
yes. And so...
The third one... what can I say?
We just love getting married. We just do it
kind.
periodically. We are, you know...
Just
for the heck of it.
Very romantic couple.
Yes.
Yes.
We had a hand fasting in Ireland.
Pardon me?
Hand fasting, Celtic hand fasting, which is a Celtic ceremony.
Oh, is that what they call it? Hand fasting?
Where you get married, kind of, sort of, for a year and a day. And at the end of that year and the day, if you want to go your separate ways, you can without any fault.
Oh, well, how intelligent is that?
Yeah. And then if you do want to stay
hand
together...
Fasting.
Well, you bind the hands...
Oh, I see.
...with each other's hands, and you do... It's a similar ceremony to the wedding ceremony, because that was derived from... You know, most of the stuff they do today is derived from very interesting ancient pagan rituals.
Yes.
And hand fasting was one of those. And
so
we actually got hand fasting.
It was custom then to have a sort of a trial marriage,
is
what that was.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
right?
I don't know if that's what he thought was going to happen with the third one, that was his outcome.
No, I think after the third time, I was pretty sure you were holding on to me.
Yeah.
I think in my mind, you get married the first time, you get a chance. You get married the second time, your chance lessens. So the third time, that's it, I'm done. You know, there's no way out now.
All right, so this is permanent.
Yes,
all right.
Absolutely. But we did the hand fasting with 2 friends of ours in the middle of the place is in the middle of a fairy ring in Ireland, and a place called, was it Kilquade?
Yes.
Yeah, in Kilquade, in County Wicklow. northern Wicklow, which is beautiful, beautiful
Must
country.
have been beautiful.
It's fairy
All
country.
of Ireland is really beautiful.
But there's, you know, people,
pastoral.
you can physically see the ferry down there, which is kind of really, really cool. And there's whole towns inside massive big ferry rings, which is kind of cool.
So then, how quickly did your professional union evolve? That is, you know, what you do now.
Well, Connie was the first to take it. I was always getting pictures and visions and little, what I called little pictures I would get when I'd be talking with people and stuff like that. But then Connie was more into the metaphysical aspect of it. And
you mean philosophically?
Yeah, because she went to psychics and stuff like that. I still wasn't about that. I wasn't about going to psychics. But when the psychic that told her that if she didn't come and get me, that it would be another 14 years, she, I was going to say drag, but I'll say took. Borrow a Tolkien word, took.
She took you.
She took me to see the psychic that told her this, and the psychic blew me out of the water.
Made him a believer.
I have yet to find anyone as accurate,
yes,
as on as she was.
I've had one like that in my life too. One that was extraordinarily accurate.
Yeah,
extraordinarily accurate, but it was the way
and
she
was
did it.
Conversional in a sense.
Yeah, it was.
You know,
it was my baptism.
Because it really does show you that the universe isn't put together quite the way you thought it was.
No, it was like somebody popped a cap on my head, and just everything just kind of
because you had a scientific background.
Oh, yeah. It's left brain versus right brain.
Right.
I know that now.
Yeah.
And once I educated myself on how to swap between brains, now I can do that. Yeah. And it's kind of cool. I prefer the right side, more in the right than the left nowadays.
Now you do.
Yeah. Because
you feel totally comfortable.
Oh, absolutely, because that's where the music comes from. That's where all of this, the spiritual inspiration comes from.
And so prior to that, you had not had any spontaneous indications.
No. I knew
because maybe you were
was
just
weird.
Simply
you know, and I could see pictures and stuff like that. You know,
pictures. What do you mean?
Like little pictures in my head about things coming up, like little
clairvoyance.
Visions, clairvoyance,
prognostications of things that would come up.
But he didn't know that that's what it was. He didn't know it was clairvoyance.
Yeah, many people have that without being able to
I just
identify
thought
I
thought it was a drink.
Oh, was the alcohol?
Many things have been blamed on the alcohol.
Yes, or just swept under the alcohol.
Do you know the Gaelic word for spirit is ishki?
Ishki?
Whiskey.
Whiskey. Ishki. So is that where the word whiskey comes from?
Spirits.
Spirits, of course. We call them spirits.
But it's like...
but they evoke spirits.
Yes, but their word for ghosts and the best drink ever to come out of Ireland are both the same thing. So it's like, you know, man of few words, the Irish. You know,
yes,
so
they are.
But
they're very descriptive words.
Yes, and I think that's, you know,
they're poets.
We are warrior poets from a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I always knew that I used to get poetry and stuff. I've been a poet from way back, and I've been writing poetry, and some of it pretty dark. But
did you play music?
Yes,
you did.
Because me and my sisters have all been singers.
How many sisters do you have?
5.
5.
Mm-hmm. No brothers.
Yes, no brothers.
No,
just
I understand the female psyche.
That's excellent. I'm sure your wife appreciates that.
Yeah, it has an upside and a downside, right?
Yeah, that's what I've said to people. I said, well, him having 5 Irish sisters, nothing could compare and be as bad as 5 Irish sisters with PMS.
No. Women who live together do not cycle together. Well, what do they call that? A product announcement or a
and then on the downside, there's not a trick he hasn't seen pulled.
No.
Yes.
No, I understand. I get women. I do understand them. And it's the male part, you know, that I've had to sort of adjust to understand, to be a little bit more plugged in to what's going on around me as a male energy. And that's, my mother and father really weren't that psychic per se. I had an aunt, and that's where the gift came from, because I cornered my mom, funny enough, in a bar in Ireland. And I was talking to her, and I said, where does this gift come from? Because my family have all accepted what I do now. And she said, it was your Aunt Ginny, because I had this lady appearing to me at night wearing a black outfit and a pair of plimsolls, which are sneakers, and white sneakers.
Plimsolls?
Yes, plimsolls.
That's
it's an awfully English word.
That's a lovely word, plimsolls.
Plimsolls. The Belfast expression is gutty. Gutties. Gutties is what they're called.
Gutties.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and we educate here too.
Yeah.
But she said that was the aunt that, the weird aunt that nobody would talk to. And she lived out in the country, but when people had sick animals and stuff, they'd drop them off at her door and stuff. And I told my mom what she was wearing, and she said, yeah, she had very bad feet. So she used to wear these white plimsolls all the time. And I thought, and as soon as my mom told me the story, the vision went away. She stopped appearing to me, which was kind of cool.
I see.
So she just wanted to come forward to acknowledge that this is not a fluke. This is something that you've been born into this family.
Yeah, it's hereditary, really.
To pick up that gene and pick up that energy.
Yeah,
so
talent, often heredity does pass on these talents.
Yes, and some people ignore them, and ignore them very well.
Depends on the culture and the family you were raised in.
Well, I've always said, anyway, the Irish are painted with a very thin veneer of Christianity, anyway.
Yes.
You know, they're
pagans.
Yes, they are. Their culture and their stuff go way back.
Yes.
And I remember a movie called The Field.
Ancient.
And one of the guys said in the movie, the Irish are painted with a thin veneer of Christianity. And I went, I love that line. Because most of my friends, they'll either fight it or they'll be with you.
Yes.
And this
maybe that's why they drink so much.
Yeah, it goes back and forth. It's moody.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
kind
that
of a moody
sort
energy.
of the evoking of the spirit.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, friends of ours, Doreen Virtue, did one of her classes down in the south of Ireland, and Connie and I were staffing it, and she's from California. She's a Valley girl. So she's in Ireland, in Southern Ireland, and usually when she does these things, there's a vegan meal, and everybody goes, and we, drink wheatgrass and whatever, tofu, and be animals
pure
with large sort of appendages for a while. It's like that kind of thing. You've got to sort of eat all this animal food that rabbits would eat, and it's just not my thing. I like my animal protein.
Mm-hmm.
But she comes out, and there's nobody hanging around, and everybody's in the bars in the hotel. She's like, I don't get that. Well, why are they in the bars? I'm like, because they're there, and they're open.
Yes.
And they're Irish. This is what we do. This is the cultural phenomena that is Ireland.
But, speaking about it, it's kind of important because where one is born makes a tremendous difference in the development of the psyche.
Yes.
In fact, the soil and the psyche are mysteriously connected.
Oh, absolutely.
And when you have a longing to go back to your homeland, it's really a longing to go back to who you are on a very cellular level almost.
Yeah, as much as I've gotten from this country, I can't bring myself to be a citizen.
No, nor can I.
It's because
I'm
my
a
roots,
Canadian citizen,
right? Absolutely,
but an American.
Resident, as it were. Same here.
Yes.
I'm an Irish citizen.
Not an alien.
Right. And the energy of it is that periodically I have to go back to Ireland because I need that recharge. And being a psychic from Ireland, we're a bit more tell it like it is. We don't mind the dark energy. We don't mind the dark side. We don't mind, the fey energy. Sort of the forest and the darker energies, the darker entities that actually are here to help us also. We don't mind going into that direction with it, rather than, it's all about fluff, it's all about light and all that. No, there's a balance that needs to be kind of brought in. So that's where I know I'm different from somebody who, say, has grown up in California. We have different philosophies on psyche.
Irish folklore.
Yes.
There are many spirits that are represent darker forces of the psyche, is what you're saying, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're not adverse to admitting them?
No.
No.
Talking with them, finding out what they know, that kind of thing.
I see. Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah, because, people ask me what I use to protect myself. I use gargoyle energy. Sometimes I use bats. Sometimes I use, it's the darker energies because I'm trying to protect myself. I don't want people attracted by the light. I want them repelled by the dark.
And what are you protecting yourself from?
Just general energies, people's stupidity. Crossing my boundaries, that kind of thing.
I see.
I think being an entertainer, I get a lot of that.
You put yourself out there,
You do,
which is what entertainers do, is they
really sort of expose themselves.
And if they don't listen, I just hand it over to my wife, and she takes care of it.
Yeah, she
very,
seems
very
very
quickly.
adept at fielding energy.
Yeah, she is. She's very good. She doesn't know how she does it. She's just a natural.
Yeah, I
because
can see that.
I will
yeah.
feel somebody's negative vibrations and energy, and she just walks past them like nothing's happened. So she's got wings of steel.
So back to the history here.
Yes.
At what point did you know absolutely what you wanted to do? You don't have to give me a particular
right.
date, but a kind of a sort of roundabout.
I think once I saw Connie getting into the comedy, because I was doing readings and private sessions at that point.
Oh, you were already doing,
Yeah.
so you were already making a profession out of it, right?
People ask me what I do for a living.
That's what you would say.
I'm a medium.
And
life coach.
when did that occur? At what age were you, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to refer that to Connie. I don't know when I decided to do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you were probably late 30s when you
Late
started
30s,
to
all right.
Yeah.
Well,
started
that's
doing
still
it
pretty
professionally.
late.
Yeah, it
you
is.
know.
It is.
Yeah.
But I think getting into something when you're absolutely sure
Mm-hmm.
is a lot better than getting into something when you're not sure
Yeah.
and then trying to develop within it. Because I've seen a lot of people burn out when
So
that
you did it
happens.
by yourself?
Yes.
And then Connie started doing stand-up comedy. Where did you, you were always just funny.
Oh,
Well, yeah, I've always had
She's a
people.
hoot.
Now, this is the funny part: is that my mother was pushing me to be a comedian in my early 20s. I mean, what parent does that?
Yes.
Oh, you should be a comedian.
Where did she get that notion? Just
c-
by
'cause
observing
I
you?
could make her laugh, and I'm thinking,
Yes.
if I had
Yes.
an audience of you, it'd be great.
Yeah, yeah.
But no. And
Well,
I
that was
kinda
very
thought
good
that.
of her, though, to encourage you in a profession that isn't necessarily
Popular.
usual.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Popular with
Yeah.
the parents. So I finally broke. But here's the thing, and this is what I like to say to people: is that don't be afraid to follow your heart. Because for me, it took me a while because my sense of humor was not up for ridicule.
Yeah.
And that's why it took me a while to do it, because it was something I held close to my heart. And I thought to put it out there, I just wasn't ready to have people slam it.
Yeah.
This was something that meant a lot to me. So, but I knew it was time. That's why I was here.
Yeah. And
was
so
to be
then
able to do that.
you put your talents together and you created a show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the show, when did we do our first show?
Together, I think we did it probably in California.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
our start was in California because most
All
of the
right.
people that we knew, because we are friends with a few A-list metaphysical people,
And we did a lot of work out there.
and we did a lot of work out there with them.
I see.
And then all of a sudden we were kind of, these always put us together, Martin and Connie, because we're a stable couple,
Right.
that kind of thing, and people need to see that these days.
You always supported one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's
So when
how
I
it
started
evolved.
doing it, then she would be putting in her 2 cents worth
Yeah.
periodically. And then we looked at that and we thought, hey, this could work.
Yes. Yes.
This could be
it
sort
could
of
be very entertaining.
George and Gracie,
Yes.
and Burns and Allen.
I'm old enough to remember that. Yes.
And I think that's kind of how we developed, that I was the person doing the mediumship, and a lot of things that come through.
But you don't necessarily associate comedy with mediumship.
No, you don't.
Because they're not. There's somehow there's a seriousness or a solemnity.
Yeah, but it's
that-
too important to be taken too seriously. And when I get these spirits coming through, the reason they're coming through is to uplift the person that they want to talk to.
Yeah.
And in my book, I always talk to spirit and I say, tell me something funny. Because the only way this person is going to be uplifted is if you make them laugh.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
reminding them that you're dead.
Right.
You're
right,
reminding them how long you've been gone.
Right.
And a lot of these spirits will come through because we should be so dead.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
are the most high energy beings that I've felt when you're talking to the deceased. They're crossed over, they're transitioned, they're right where they want to be, and they love it.
Of course.
And they want to impart that information to.
But I'm
the
going to skip
client.
to a question that that is pertinent to that, which I find a little curious, is because when I see mediums talking with those who have passed, they can never hold on to that conversation very long. It's as if there's sort of a time limit on it, and one would think that if they're in a realm of the infinite.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no time where they are. Why are they limited by time? Do you think? You may not know. I'm just asking if
yeah,
you may
absolutely.
have considered it.
My time's important.
I see. Your time.
Yeah.
Not their time.
Not their time.
I see.
And we work on linear time, for the most part, on this planet. We
so
understand
it's your decision
quantum time.
whether they come or they go, or...
As soon as I know that's enough, this person's got enough information, I move on to the next spirit.
But theoretically, then you could
could
talk with them much longer.
There are spirits that I find fascinating. And when they come through, I spend more time with them.
I see.
It's a personal decision.
But is that spirit then someone that you have deliberately searched out, or
No.
Just
They will
by
be
accident?
a member of, like if I'm talking to you and a spirit comes through and I find out that this spirit that's coming through is a family member, but they're also extremely highly evolved.
I see.
And a very highly evolved teacher. Then
so
I'll
they
spend
have
more time.
information to
They
impart
have
to you.
information also, because I'll get an FYIs.
Uh-huh.
You know, this is for you, this is for you, this is for the planet, this is for whatever. Oh, by the way, tell my mom that I'm okay. Or,
Yeah.
you know, and that kind of thing when I get a spirit like that, which
Because
is the way
people
I
have
do
the
it.
impression, though, that when one dies, one becomes enlightened.
No.
This is the impression that we have.
One
is
would
that,
think.
you know, if
Yeah.
you go to the other side, then there's
Some
all
people
these...
die, but very few ascend.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of, you'll either leave this planet through an ascension or you'll leave it by dying, you know.
Yes.
And I think you sort of are looking down going, you're done.
Yeah.
You know, I've had it. You know, it's like it's time. But no, I think depending on a lot of people believe it's depending on the age of your soul, you know, how many lifetimes that you've come here. And I think a lot of us that know what enlightenment is all about realize that this is kind of close to our last time here. We don't want to come back again, but it is our choice to come back. Nobody forces us to come to Earth, even if we have a lot to learn. Even young souls are not forced to come to Earth. They're given the ultimatums. You know, this is what you can learn here, and a lot, as a spiritual being, you'll go, wow, that's a lot of stuff in such a short period of time. I'll take that.
It's like a business opportunity
You know,
meeting.
it's like you always talk to you during the business opportunity meeting. They don't tell you about the work. You just say,
Yes.
hey, come to
Yes.
Earth. You know?
Yes.
You know, they
Well-
show you the white sandy beaches and stuff like that, you know. As one of the great metaphysicians said, pizza, chocolate, and orgasms. That's how we were talking to come into
You're
Earth.
going to have to repeat that because I didn't quite follow.
But I was told that sort of quite out of the blue by a metaphysician, and I thought,
No,
That makes
please
a lot of
slow down
sense.
because you know you're from Ireland. And
right.
I can't understand foreign people. So,
Well, aren't you from Canada?
No, that's right. I am foreign myself, but no, we're limited. Say that again.
At pizzas, orgasms, and chocolate.
I see.
That's
I
why
didn't hear the first word.
Yeah, it's
although
why
I
we-
caught the second.
Apparently, that's why we came back this particular
selling
lifetime
point
to
for
Earth,
Earth.
because this is the planet of pleasure.
I see.
The pleasure centers, the senses, you know, are really strong on this planet, and that's why we come back. But as soon as you cross over, no, you don't always evolve. You do evolve some. You are more enlightened than anybody who's alive, but there's other things that there's other stages that you have to move to.
one would think
No.
that when you realized that there isn't any death, that it would be quite an enlightening experience in and of itself.
Yes,
and
I
that
think
it would erase all the fear-based
yes,
ideas
yes,
that
and I
you
think
have.
fear-based ideas have been around since man has been around. You know, we have a tendency to frighten ourselves. You know, and again, since my son passed away.
Oh, wait, I want you to tell the audience about your son, Andrew, and that whole incident, because it meant a great deal to your lives, and it really changed the focus of your life as
Yeah,
well.
we make
so.
no excuses anymore as to
Yes.
who he was. And because there are other children out there exactly like him that are living today that
And
need
that
to have
is
a
like
voice.
what?
They are master teachers, avatars, Buddhas, Christs, Allahs, ascended masters. They're out there and they're on the planet today. And they're delivering messages of the most profound nature. And we have to sort of get these messages before the stupid is taught into them in our school systems and just basically other stuff that they learn growing up. But we've met a lot of children, Connie and I.
And how old was he when he passed?
16.
16. Yes.
He was 16.
And he knew that he was an avatar. He told me that in the hospital, that he knew he was an avatar.
And an avatar, the definition of avatar in my book is master teacher,
Bringer of light.
bringer of light.
And what evidence did you have of that?
Oh, just the wisdom, the stuff that he taught me, the stuff that he told me growing up.
He just knew things that a child his age shouldn't know.
Yeah. And
or would ever think of.
And are you familiar with Reiki?
Yes.
He was a Reiki master at 12 years old. And he just understood the nature of healing energy. He understood how to do it. And I've seen it firsthand with him, that he was able to use this energy very wisely and very strongly. And his friends knew it. His friends knew he was way too positive for his own good, is how they put it. And
what did he die of?
Leukemia.
Leukemia.
And he contracted it in tomorrow.
Tomorrow will be
for the anniversary
tomorrow.
of the day
5
he was
years
diagnosed.
That he was
Will be
diagnosed.
tomorrow.
Well,
And
I'm
it's
sorry.
also my daughter's birthday tomorrow. So there's a
Oh.
positive. It's almost like every event in that, he made sure there was
How
something
many children
positive.
do you have?
2.
Two. Yeah.
Now,
So there's one,
living.
one left.
Well,
One left. Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
And we have one grandchild.
Okay. That's
Little Caliana.
Oh, that's sweet.
I'm her favorite.
So, before we discuss your son a little bit more, which I'd like to do, I still wanted to kind of explore with you, since you have a scientific background, and yet you've given yourself over so completely
Yes.
to the metaphysical world. If you could tell us your perspective on both the metaphysical and the physical perspectives on it. How do you juxtapose the two in your own mind?
Right. It's pretty simple when you look at the physics of it. If you look at any other aspect of it, like the biology of it, or the geology of it, or the paleontology of it, it's the physics of it. Physics is what makes it work, which not a lot of people understand. One of my favorite metaphysicians is also one of my favorite physicists. His name was Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla, very scientific, invented AC current, invented a ton of stuff that he never got the credit for. Because Nikola Tesla's thing was, this planet is a complete energy source. We don't have to rape it, we don't have to sort of dig into it. There's free energy, and he was developing ways to make energy free for everybody. But as you know, Westinghouse, all the rest, all these companies back then were like, no, we can't do that.
No.
We got to charge for this.
Yeah.
So when you read about Tesla, a lot of his inventions were kind of not really, somebody else took them, patented them, and stuff like that. He was just all about, here's all this information I'm getting, and here's what we're going to do with it. We're going to ride this planet right through to the very end.
Yes, it was a pure spirit.
Pure spirit, but he was also a scientist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Einstein was the same way. Einstein was a little bit more grounded than Tesla. Tesla believed in spirit energy. He believed in life after death and all of that good stuff. So when I read about Tesla, I went, well, if he can believe it, and I honestly thought I missed my calling at university. I should have done physics instead of chemistry, and minored in chemistry instead of minoring in physics. Because now I understand physics. I understand string theory, quantum physics, the very basis of why we're here as a spirit having a human experience.
And the correlations with ancient knowledge.
Oh,
and I think
absolutely. All
are,
physics. The pyramids, physics. How they work. All physics. And it's knowledge that we probably had back in the day that we don't have anymore.
We're recovering it instead.
Yes.
We're retrieving knowledge that we had at one time.
Yeah.
Ancient knowledge is often far more profound, and their understanding of how the universe worked.
Yeah.
Even if they simply use symbolic language,
Yeah.
like believing in earth, wind,
A can
fire.
and a piece of string,
Yeah.
can tell us a lot more than a video phone.
But their
it's-
mythologies and their symbols
Yes.
really encompassed so many profound ideas.
And for me, understanding that, now I can say, well, okay, I have a complete satellite system up here with dishes that retrieve information. So the whole experience looks scientific to me.
I see.
It's very
so you envision
computeristic,
it.
Scientifically, as if you're retrieving
the information, and I move the disc and I shift it
You
around
shift it
with a
around.
dial to get whatever spirit is coming through, and that's the way I justify
Well,
it.
it's very interesting because many mediums use the analogy of tuning in very much as if you tune in a radio station.
Yes.
That there are frequencies.
Yes.
And that you simply have to tune into
Yes.
that particular frequency.
Yeah.
And then it becomes as real.
Yeah, because if you look
It's
around
always
you...
there.
Yes.
But unless you are,
Yeah.
unless this device is tuned to it, you simply
Yeah.
don't realize it's invisible.
Yeah, and when I teach I teach mediumship, I teach people how to be mediums, and when I teach them, that has to be in place before you do any work with the deceased.
The philosophy of it.
The philosophy of being able to turn it off and turn it on, tune it in, tune it out. Because
Otherwise, you're inundated.
you're inundated with people who see your light now as a medium. Once you connect, it's almost as if spirit can see that, and it's like moths to a flame. They're drawn to
see.
it. And if you're not able to turn it off, it's due to lack of training, not because that's who you are.
So that's why you were talking perhaps also about protecting yourself.
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely. And
because
it's like
there's
vibrations.
sort of a vampire ship almost that
Absolutely.
that happens from spirit.
And some people believe there's two schools of thought on that you don't have to protect yourself from anything, and then there's a school of thought that believe that you do. Well, I'm from the school of thought that I believe that you do for your own peace of mind. I mean, you don't go out in the sun without sunscreen. And if you do, you're a fool. You know, if you're going to spend all day out in it, you know. And that's kind of what it is to me. It's just like putting on sunscreen, only from a spiritual perspective. And that's what I teach people. And if you don't believe that you need to be protected, then go to somebody who's teaching that. There's plenty of teachers out there for everybody.
Yeah. So you teach these methods.
Yeah.
That there are specific. There's a protocol.
Protocol.
Right. Right.
And as you get better at it, it takes
Did you
less
create
time.
the protocol?
No.
No.
Protocol's always been there. It's about just seeing yourself. And I've watched a lot of metaphysicians, and it's funny that they all come up with the same protocol. So it must be a protocol from spirit, and everybody who's just plugged in gets it. Well, if I tell you to go protect yourself and you've never heard of that before, and you come back and tell me what you did, it will probably be in line with what's being taught. I just think it's something that's inherent to us.
Yeah.
You surround yourself with something. That's what I would do. I was like, well, that's what you do.
Protect yourself with light.
With light and whatever, you know,
Yeah.
that's kind of what you do.
Yeah.
And for people who are teaching metaphysics, who are mediums and psychics, they just need to sort of vamp up the protection just a little bit, because you're going to be across from people who are pulling at your energy all the time. And you just got to sort of be aware of that, because you'll feel fatigued and you'll feel wondering where that's coming from. And that's where it's coming from. You're allowing them to take your energy.
Now, there are many mediums who channel educators.
Yes.
Educators not of this reality, but educators of that reality. Entities that can describe for us the topography,
The environment of the spiritual realm.
Yes.
And so I was wondering whether that has ever happened to you, whether you have, and have you ever made notes of it and
Yes.
and tried to describe sort of an actual terrain,
Yes.
if you metaphorically speaking.
Well, my beautiful wife, Connie,
and she is, even though she's off screen and we can't see her. I
is
attest
also
to that.
a published author,
All right.
and she has 2 books out. And
If you'd like, you can show the book if you'd.
this is the
Certainly.
second book. This is the book that we wrote with my son,
That's your son. That's a picture of your son.
Andrew. Yes.
I see.
And the book-
There you go.
See the resemblance?
Oh yeah.
And this is Andrew.
Yes, he's very attractive.
Yes, and his higher self is Pure Heart, and its Pure Heart is the one that I channel.
So
And
no
Pure Heart-
regrets, a journey through life, love, and beyond.
And he does describe where he's at, topography, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Where he's at in the book.
And the hierarchy of that
Yes.
environment.
Yes.
I see. So you include that in the book.
Yes.
Well, that would be very interesting.
And I actually finished reading a book on Seth.
I know him well.
Interesting. But
No doubt.
again, it's real information.
Absolutely.
And I read it and I went, okay, what's this all about? Because I haven't read a metaphysical book in 5 years. I've been told to
You'd
stop
never
reading.
read Seth before?
Read
It's
him
the first
years ago.
time.
This
Oh,
is-
you did.
Seth
Well,
is
everyone
old.
is that
No,
way.
it's
Yes, well,
because, and I remember reading
in
him
the
way
New
back.
Age environment.
Yes.
It is
Yes.
a rather old. It's not the 70s.
Yes,
Is when it
which as far as New Age, which is really old age,
ancient.
it's still, the movement itself is
but
pretty young.
It launched the movement,
yes,
by the way.
It did.
Yeah.
And I read about that, and I went, well, it's...
Which one did you read? Seth Speaks?
Yeah, for the first one.
Which is what I recommend people
absolutely,
start with.
Because that's the one Andrew told me to read.
It covers so
and
many topics.
This is the only book I have on my Kindle, because I just got it. So I downloaded, I didn't need another book, so I downloaded that book on Seth, and I read it, and I went, okay, I agree with his philosophy. It's very good. And I think that's kind of getting back to basics and helping people understand that it's not complicated. The people who are teaching you may take it to the nth degree, but you take out of it what you need and keep it as uncomplicated as you need. And there's people who channel entities like that, like Dr. Peebles. There's a lot of channelers out there who channel this particular entity. His name
Dr. Peebles?
Dr. Peebles.
You know, somehow Dr. Peebles has escaped my attention.
Yes, Dr. Peebles. And I love the channelers of Dr. Peebles because they talk like this and they give it this, and God bless you. And
they do?
Oh, it's an accent, and it's a whole mannerism. And it's phenomenal because I'm sitting listening, you got to be kidding me. I got to do something like this for the show. And I'm watching it, I'm going, wow, And then instead of stop, and I start listening to the information.
Yes.
And the information is very accurate and very much what we need to know today. And it's like, okay, if they didn't do that, I probably wouldn't be paying attention to them. So they have to have their gig. That's what I call a gig. And that's why we bring the comedy in and the mediumship to sort of get people's attention.
Or make it palatable.
Make it palatable so that they'll sit and they'll listen to the information that the pure heart has to share. Mm-hmm. And some of his insights since he passed have blown me away. There's information I'm sitting on from him that I can't deliver just yet.
You mean presently? That isn't there in the book?
It's not in the book.
So it's a prognostication of some sort, you're saying?
And
delivered...
just delivered by pure heart. And he told me that pure heart is not a person, it's a collective.
A collective of consciousness.
A collective of consciousness of various trains of thought, various philosophies, various forms of thought. Okay. It's almost like you call them for people to understand, we call it like a council, where it's like the King Arthur and the Round Table, where it's knights at a round table, and they have a speaker. And that consciousness is called pure heart.
And so you're saying you channeled the information from this council.
Yes.
And you're saying, why can't you reveal it?
It's a timing thing. And
well, we're in 2012, and we don't have a lot of time left. So.
Dare to dream.
We're all going to die.
Yes.
No. I have a tendency when I'm talking to people, one of my favorite scientists, modern scientists that are actually doing this work is Greg Braden. And he's a Mayan scholar, and he's also a computer science engineer. And he's all about the physics of channeling and the physics of where we get information from. But he does cool stuff, like he shows you thermal photographs of the Earth. And you see the thermal photograph from the satellite, and it looks like a yin-yang symbol.
It does.
It's kind of awesome that he's bringing that forward. They say, yay, I'm a scientist. Well, look at this cool photograph.
Oh,
and it's like, that brings the spirit.
So he has an open mind.
Yeah, he has a very open mind, and he is very metaphysical.
And his name again?
Greg Braden.
Braden.
Yeah,
right.
he's very popular on the metaphysical circuit right now.
Is he?
And
another one that just passed by.
Yeah, go on YouTube. It's Greg with 2 G's.
Yeah, and he's also very pleasant to look at.
Oh yes, and he's very.
The ladies would
love him, and it's great mane of white hair. And
it's not white, but he's handsome, and I didn't think I would enjoy his talk when he was at the I Can Do It a couple of years ago, and so I said, no, you guys go, and I'll pack up lunch, and I saw Martin was outside, and I said, what are you doing out here? The talk already started. He goes, no, nothing started yet. And so, because Martin and his friend Jeremy have a bromance with Greg, they love him, little hearts pop up around. And I thought, it's a science talk. How good can it be? He knocked my socks off. Absolutely hung on his every word.
Yeah.
And come to find out, my son actually woke him up the night before because he had taken a song off of his video.
Like a video, yeah. He had a sort of inset video in his presentation that he took out the night before.
And then he was woken up, he said 3 o'clock in the morning, and then when he put it in and he played it, and then the three of us got, Andrew was the one that told him to put it back in.
Because it was all, you could just see Andrew in every photograph, and it was like Andrew was all about John Lennon and John Denver were his two favorites. And this was the Imagine presentation of Greg's, and it was just like, as soon as we saw it, we went, oh, Andrew, you know.
And I got to tell Greg that, and he goes, so that was for you. I said, yes, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, I must have.
So he pays attention to spirit. Yes, absolutely. So he's one of those scientists that pays attention to spiritual energy.
Yes, well, there are a few.
Yeah.
There are a few, more and more all the time. And I think that, there's a huge possibility that the scientists of the future will be our priests.
Right now,
our representatives of the metaphysical ideas.
Absolutely, because there's more pure thought there, I think.
It's also grounded in reason, and reason I've never thought was antagonistic towards the understanding of spirituality, but could be used in concert with it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's kind of what you look at. You look at trying to move things into alignment rather than finding reasons why they need to be out of alignment. And with that whole concept, Connie has been blogging since Andrew was diagnosed, and
blogging about
the journey,
the whole journey,
process of going through leukemia and going through grief. Because what we do is we're trying to bring people to the understanding that you can heal grief, and we've done it, and we're trying to impart our knowledge of what he's taught us on how to do that. And that's what the book is all about. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be glad you read it, because it is the journey from his diagnosis date right through to his passing. And the stories and the teachings that he's been teaching us, because he was studying Buddhism right before he passed and had a real interesting grasp of that philosophy.
What was his attitude towards what he was going through? I mean, the death, the possibility of death being so
never
near.
entered his mind.
It never entered his mind.
Never entered. He was so focused on his well-being and health. He was positive the entire time.
That's why I tell people he died healthy. And we're like,
yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, well, it is. He died healthy.
Yeah.
He died with that positive mental attitude.
And his chakras were all aligned.
Yeah. We had energy healers in to work on him, and they're like, why am I working on him?
So you did try holistic methods.
Absolutely.
And he was, of course, open to all that, but it just simply didn't take.
No.
Well, what happened was
it was his time.
It was his time.
It was his time, but a lot of they didn't think he would make it out of the PICU when he was first diagnosed because it was so aggressive. And then when he didn't go into remission, they told Martin they didn't think he was going to make it. He then got his blast cells, which is the numbers that they were looking for. They said he wouldn't get below 15% or below 20%. He got down to 0. So he beat all these odds. And that was what was so bizarre, because it wasn't so much the leukemia. He had ended up with an infection. And then Martin, he also had a small lung bleed, and Martin, because he can stop bleeding, it's one of the things he can do. And so he went to work on that.
As a healer,
yeah,
you can do that.
It's a parlor trick.
And he went to do that.
I don't know why, but it is. It's like, okay, so I can do that.
So when he was working on
hands.
Andrew,
Yes.
the spirits, when Martin was working on Andrew, when he was intubated for the last time, the day he passed, he was pushed out of the room by the spirits that were there for Andrew, and said no more, because they knew we would have healed that too. So
I was heading back in there to put an end to it. I was just like, this is nonsense. Let's get this done.
And so now it's one of your missions is to get the word out, is it not, about leukemia, the whole process, and not just about grieving, but...
No, the grief process, we started a foundation called the Pure Heart Foundation. And our mission, it's through not just leukemia, but terminal illness in children. And what we found out in the hospital is the parents of these children get nothing. The children are treated like royalty, especially All Children's Hospital in Tampa. It is phenomenal children's cancer hospital.
my son called it a hotel because he had his massage every day. He had room service.
And the kids at the hospital, they don't have set dinner and breakfast times. They call up the kitchen and they say, this is what I want, and the kitchen sends it up. Any time of the day,
But what you're saying is that the parents are ignored?
The parents are ignored.
Yeah.
Because
there's nothing for the parents.
There's nothing for the parents.
What do you mean by that?
Well, this is how I put it. Every day, I know Martin had to make life and death decisions on my son's care. Because, should we do this? Do you want to do that? We're looking at doing this and that. It's a lot of stress, and there's nobody there to pamper the parents and to give them that break. And they have to worry about outside finances. How are we going to pay the mortgage? How do I stay with my child? Can I take off work? Mm-hmm. It's just horrendous, and there's really.
So how would you change? What would you implement in order to make it more?
Well, one, helping them financially.
To make it more humanitarian. What would you do?
I would. Right now, I've got people lining up to volunteer, giving massages, manicures, and pedicures, just giving these parents a break for themselves to feed their soul. To
let them out for an evening, like a date night. So we'll come in and we'll watch. We'll sit. with you.
So a break in the stress is what you were advocating.
For Martin and I, we were not going to leave our son. So if somebody came in and like in the break room, we're willing to just give parents a manicure, a pedicure, even a chair massage, just something.
Or if they need their mortgage paid, or if they need something to stave off that, and so because the kids get. There's the Make-A-Wish Foundation. There's the Children's Dream Fund.
But there's no foundation for the parents because even afterwards, they need to decompress whether they've lost their child or their child has made it. I mean, hospital life, I can't even begin to explain the stress that there is. And then like we lost our son, we come home and we're like, what happened to our life? 4.5 months ago, I had a healthy son, taking him to his friend's house, and now I come home with no son.
Yeah, and you're in a financial hole.
It came upon your son rapidly.
Very rapid.
Within 24 hours is what the doctor said.
24 hours?
Yes. Yeah. There was no signs like...
usual?
Yes.
No.
For that cancer, yes.
Yes. It's a rare form that he had.
It's a rare form of
I see. And
leukemia.
So from the time it comes on to the time...
We were lucky because most people
he's taken is not very long then.
The first
no,
week.
For him it was 4 months.
And most people passed the first week.
Yeah.
And so for that
because I was beating myself up.
Incredibly stressful.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Extremely, because you're on the go 24/7.
Yes, and it's because it's so rapid, it's also intense.
But it's intense because it's a roller coaster ride, because one day he's doing phenomenal, the next day his platelets are down and he's bleeding out. And then the next day he's doing phenomenal and your emotions are going up and down at the same rate as whoever you have in there. And every day is different. Every day there's something going on. So you have to be there constantly with them. And I think looking at the parents, and I dealt with a lot of the parents and talked with a lot of the parents when I was there, and a lot of them are just burned out.
Marriages were falling apart.
Yeah.
Nobody comes up to them, and marriages fall apart. And one of my go-to people at the hospital was actually the Christian pastor.
Yes.
He was a phenomenal man.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, David Pitt. And he actually turned... I was helping him with the situation with his brother in California as we were chatting, and I told him something, and then now he was talking to me about Andrew, and I said to him, I can't do that. And he went, can't or won't? I went, dude, you're not allowed to turn that philosophy on me. He said it was good advice when you gave it to me. So that's the kind of thing we did back and forth. There was nothing.
Helped one another.
It wasn't religious mumbo jumbo. It was just two men consoling each other, back to the warrior poets, back to that warrior energy, sort of leaning on each other and just saying, look, we can get through this together. And we did to a point, but no, you can't go before your time.
No.
And it was Andrew's time. He needed to be on the other side. So that
he realized it.
Yeah.
And you two realized it.
Well, we knew, I mean, at first we were just shocked because even the doctors were shocked. And Andrew had been intubated, so he passed while he was intubated.
Oh.
And he had been intubated that afternoon.
Yeah.
And so...
now that you're... we've got about 4 minutes left or so. Tell us about that mission of yours, what you're doing together, how people can contribute, how they can find you, your website.
Well, we have a website, pureheartspace.com, and they can sort of get a hold of us there, or we've got, where else?
Heal Live?
The heallive.org, and click on Connie's blog. She blogs. There's a blog link at the top of that. And she blogs every day. You can get a hold of us through there. Well,
Heal Live is HEALIVE.org, and that was started when my son was diagnosed. That's what we started that website so we could keep family and friends around the world abreast of his progress.
I see.
So we still have that website, and then the Pure Heart Space and SPACE.
And you've written some original music that
for a CD called Only Love Is Real. After Andrew passed, I started writing, and he gave me 12 songs.
12?
Yeah. And he's given me a lot more since, but unfinished, because I'm a procrastinator. But these 12 songs...
How would you describe the music?
It's spiritually uplifting. It's country folk, stuff you can dance to, for the most part. And it lends itself very well to mainstream, because I do it at open mics, and I do it at concerts that I do. But it is about shifting consciousness, working with the universe, manifesting your life, manifesting your destiny, that kind of thing. So it's all those kind of phrases and stuff thrown in. And I think it's...
And you play that in your show?
Yes.
Yeah.
In our show, we do the music because we like the high vibration music, and then the comedy, just keeping all the vibrations.
Where can someone go to see you next? Where are you performing next?
Well, we're going to be in Fort Lauderdale this weekend. We've got things going on there.
And in Miami.
In Miami.
And do you have a sort of like a tour or anything
we're kind of
coming up?
It's starting to build again. So we're in Fort Lauderdale and Hollywood and Miami more, but we actually have a place now that we will be
working with
in September at the Cosmic Center in Sarasota.
In Sarasota, the Cosmic Center.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
they
can
see you here.
Yes.
Yes, we're
What's
so
the
excited.
date on that?
Oh,
you know?
It's September.
In September.
TBA. It'll be on the website. If you go to the website, pureheartspace.com, and sign up for our newsletter. We definitely we put all of our dates in a newsletter, and we send it out.
And we're going to be in the UK and Ireland in November as well.
Oh.
Touring.
Oh, touring.
Yep.
Yes.
As well.
Being weird and wonderful in the UK. It's the Weird and Wonderful tour.
Are you visiting your homeland?
Yes. Yes, we're visiting family and friends. And
because we've performed over there before, people have been asking us back. So we'll be in Milton Keynes, London. We're working on Newcastle, England, Dublin, Belfast, and Derry.
Yeah.
That sounds like an extraordinary tour.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And we've got a thing out there where we're going to send it out. I don't know if you're familiar with Kickstarter.com.
Kickstarter.com?
Yeah,
no, I'm not, but tell us about it.
You raise funds for whatever your project is.
Oh.
And you email it to your email list. You get them to send it to friends. Because a friend of mine who's a musician was trying to get to Texas for a festival. And he's a phenomenal musician, so he put it up there. So I was able to contribute to his success, which was kind of cool. So it's so we'll be sending that out as well. So that'll be in the newsletter to raise the funds for this tour, because we're trying to build the Pure Heart Foundation and have some money for the Pure Heart Foundation.
Well, I really wish you all the best in the world. And I've seen your show, and I was extremely entertained by it.
It's an entertaining show.
Does it ever happen that you don't get somebody?
No.
No.
The bigger the crowd, the easier it is.
I would imagine
if there's 3 people sitting there,
a little bit, you know?
No. If there's 3 people sitting there, then it's going to be difficult. But if there's like 3,000 people,
20,
dead easy.
50.
Yeah. And
Forgive
somebody
the
always
pun.
shows up. They're usually fighting to come through.
Yeah, they are. And
they are.
They are.
And that's how it feels.
Yes.
As if they're vying
I've
for
got
space.
to sort of hold them off. Not, is there anybody there?
Right.
There's always somebody there.
Well, thanks again, and I
And
appreciate
thank you.
it.
Appreciate
yes. And thank you out there for tuning in and for stepping outside of the box here on sbnvideo.tv, your one-stop place for all things spiritual. Until next week, let peace and love be your guide. Thank you.